by asking, who are you?
I'm Misha B. I use she, her pronouns. Although I've been experimenting with they. We'll see how that goes. Definitely not he. So that much I know about myself. I am not a he. I am a writer, editor, sensitivity reader. I'm a curator for More Seats at the Table, which is a biweekly newsletter highlighting gender marginalized people in games and their games. I am one of the founders of New Agenda Publishing, which is working on highlighting those voices that we haven't heard a lot from before. So hopefully Orun is out to backers in PDF and will be out for general sale soon, depending on when this goes up. When soon is.
Tonight,
yeah.
probably.
Okay, then soon is close enough for what I can say. And we're like trying to get the book printing details hammered down and all the fun stuff with proofs and like words that go over my head because but I have fabulous partners in it who have done that part before, so it's like, all right, this is your job. I just bug you and say, hey, have you done it yet? Every now and again, which works out well.
Yeah, I mean, so I've been meaning to talk to you for a year. You were on the original list for this project, but since Orun did just launch for backers in PDF form, I figured now would be a good time. But I've been aware of your work. I think the first time I saw your name was probably like #feminism, because you were the editor on that, right?
Yes, I was. That was a it started as a kind of middle finger to a certain community who had not been recognizing women as much as they should have. So we got a bunch of people together and they all wrote micro games. We were like, okay, try to fit it on like front and back of one page. Easy enough, right? And then so those all came in over like Thanksgiving break. So the weekend before Thanksgiving, I am reading through like 30 games, some of which are like massively traumatizing, and I am bawling. And it's like, okay, we might need to like not make anybody else go through that. So let's like rank these on like fluffy to traumatizing and do some kind of scale.
I would have just reversed the scale and send them out to the rest of the people and be like, read this really light and fluffy game before you sit down with your family for Thanksgiving dinner, and then it's just trauma in 2 pages.
Fortunately, I was not the only one doing that at the time, so it wasn't just me. But it's like afterwards when we were like getting together and like putting our notes together and it's like, oh yeah, that one. I was bawling the whole time. I'm trying to make a pie and I'm bawling. It's like it was very awkward Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I can imagine. Though honestly, what is Thanksgiving if not awkward? It's kind of the point of the day.
I think I might have even been hosting that year too, which made it even like really weird.
Just weeping over the stove. Be like, are you okay? Like, no, these games are destroying me.
But yeah, that was it was a fun experiment to do. First of all, like just putting it all together and like gathering people. It's like, hey, this is the thing you want to do. We'd really love for you to, and so we targeted some people. We put out a general call for other people, who contributed, and the stuff we got was amazing. It was everything from talking about menstruation, talking about how in the workplace women's voices are often not heard as much, or like men will say the same thing over them, and it was just a really interesting collection of different perspectives on what like gender relations are like sometimes. And so that was probably that was definitely the first editing gig I did.
Okay.
I don't know if it was the first writing. I don't think it was the first writing gig I did.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was my next question was, I didn't think it was your first project that you had been on that was published, but I'm not actually sure what your first is. And I'm wondering, like, how did you get started in the kind of working on this versus like being a fan of games side?
So the first job I was hired for was for Masks. Okay. And that came around because me and Brendan were in the same. We were in the Indie Plus defunct channel now. It
Sure.
doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
But back in the days of Google Plus,
Rip.
we were on the same board, and so we had talked a lot. We'd played games. We'd done a long running series called Chain World, where we played Dungeon World, and there were 3 core players, and we had a rotating GM would come in and play for a session, and the next session they would run, and then the next week somebody else would come in and play, and they would just pick up from where the previous person had left off.
Is that still up somewhere?
Yeah, it's on YouTube. I'll shoot you the link.
Okay, cool, thanks.
But yeah, it's on YouTube. It's documented, and every now and again, people like who have seen it come up to me, and I'm like, okay, first of all, how the hell do you know me? Oh, I watched Chain World. Like, okay, why did you watch that?
Yeah.
It's amazing. Like, how do you? But so we had done that for a long time. So Brent and I had been playing for probably close to a year at that point when he launched Masks, and I was a stretch goal writer for that. But the first thing that was actually, so that was the first thing I was hired for, but the first thing that was actually published was Chill 3rd edition expansion save.
Wow.
Yeah.
I forgot. Chill 3 is so interesting to me because like 1E and 2E had this massive impact, and then I remember 3 coming out and being like, it's at the IPR booth, but then I didn't hear like anybody talking about it. What was the experience of like working on that like?
So I mean, as a freelancer, you kind of work in isolation a bit, and then you submit stuff, and then you talk about stuff. So it was kind of low key. I mean, it was all right. Here's the things we'd like. Here's some general things we'd like, and that's also a fun thing. If you're a freelance, if you're hiring somebody, try to give them a little more than we'd like 30,000 words on X. Because that's not really like, okay, do you want like there's like a lot of ways that 30,000 words can go. Can you narrow that down a little bit? Preferably before I have to turn it in, because if I get the revisions back, it's by then it's like, okay, I have lost all my train of thought. I always
think of it like the classic 2,000 calories a day, where if there are no guidelines, you can just be like, so I can just eat like 5 tablespoons of mayonnaise and I'm good. And I'm like, you need to give me more than the base for me to do this.
Yeah. Same if you're doing art like requests, same things. Like get a little more than like I need blank, unless you really do just want them to throw something together and see what you get. But if you actually have an idea in mind, like communicate that. And also applies to haircuts. If you go in and you have an idea of what you want, just try to like bring pictures or something.
Go dating.
That's something I haven't done in a while.
Yeah,
so
that's fair.
I've been married like 17 years. So
just go on like a Tinder profile and it's just wants partner, and that's all the information you have.
It's like, okay, that's a very broad profile. Yeah. It's like, okay, can you narrow that down just a little? Like, do you want a funny partner?
Yeah.
Are you looking for a business partner? Partner's also kind of a weird. It's a nebulous word. I mean, I'm assuming if you're on Tinder, you're implying that you're looking for something romantic and or sexual.
Who knows?
But it could be both or neither, or
looking for a co-founder.
Yeah. It's like looking for capital. Hey, now we're talking.
There we go. Then they're like, no. I meant like Albany.
Yeah. That would be weird. Chill writing, freelance writing is kind of like that. It's like you either get like, okay, I'm very specific, I need this and this, and okay, the brief is like more words than you actually wanted me to write. So there's something in between. And let's see, I wrote for Chill, I wrote for Masks. What else? I worked with Rob Bull to do a world for Misspent Youth when he was doing a reprint and expansion. What else are I writing for? It's like I just okay. So I literally this morning, like my in-laws are coming to take my kids, yay! And so my office is also the guest room. So I had this wild hair up my butt to rearrange the office because I needed to pull up the couch. I'm like, okay, while I'm doing it let's rearrange some things. So now I can actually see my books from where I sit as opposed to like having to turn around. So it's this big shelf right here now. What else did I write on?
Dang, now I want a shelfie.
I will send you a shelfie when we're
okay.
Because I can probably swing it around. Let's see. So.
Oh, voila! There you go.
And this is just the RPGs. All the board games are downstairs because everybody in the house plays board games.
Oh god, the saddest, most true sentiment, right? The RPGs are my private space. The board games are for fun with other people.
Well, so this is my office. This is where I write. This is where I stream from. This is where I and 90% of my game playing nowadays is online anyway.
Sure.
And it was before the pandemic anyway. So
yeah,
I pretty much play online and at conventions because I'm a parent and I have young-ish kids. They're not like tiny, but they're young-ish, young enough that you can't just like ditch them for like 6 hours and come back.
Yeah. You've got that empty nester period in your future to look forward to when you can play games in person again.
Yeah. But even then, like most of the people around here that I play with, they're also parents, so they're all in the same boat. So we were doing all right, so the kids are in bed at 9, we can play till 11 because we all have to get up tomorrow and go to work and go. Online thing anyway, because you can't, again, it's by the time you pack up all your stuff and you drive over to somebody else, that's like half the time. Whereas you just sit down, everybody sits down in their house and everybody plays. And so we'd been doing that for years before the pandemic hit anyway.
Nice.
So that worked out pretty well. Let's see, what? Now I gotta figure out what shelf is the stuff that I should probably rearrange this to like stuff I've worked on and like as opposed to just stuff I bought because there's a difference. And I'm also drawing a blank. I can pull. I wrote stuff. I wrote stuff like down because I'm smart.
You have a website, right?
I do. It is blackgirlgameworks.com.
Okay, I'm navigating there as well. No, I didn't realize you wrote for Lovecraftesque.
Yes, I did. I wrote a scenario called Mr. Giggles Comes to Dinner, which is about a kid and their imaginary friend, and their parent coming to slowly realize that maybe kid isn't quite as imaginary as they thought.
That's terrifying.
Right? a lot of stuff is inspired by creepy crap my kids have said because kids are terrifying. Or just weird stuff that's happened. Like my Misspent Youth world was inspired by my private school high school experience, which was I did not realize how traumatized I was until we were talking about what my elder kid is going to do for high school, and my husband brought up private school and I started bawling and I'm like, where did that come from?
Wow. Immediately tears.
What the hell? This is weird. Okay, maybe we need to explore this a little. What the hell happened?
Okay, so I'll say the trend I see in the work is, and this is something that I kind of, you occupy a very specific vertical, I think, within the game space, right? Like what I think of probably is like the post-Forge indie space, like the designers who started in like 2011, 2012, like the Metatopia crowd, the Double Exposure crowd.
That's accurate.
It's been interesting watching that space because I feel like a lot of the people who are still in there are now kind of like the old heads of games. And like I have not kept up. Like that's where I got my first introduction. That's where I met my first, fellow designers, was going to Metatopia and things like that. But when I started in like 2013, it felt like everyone was like my age, right? We were all in our 20s or maybe our early 30s. We like, you knew the people who were in their 40s, but they were the people who were Forge people. That was like, Vince Baker and people like that who'd been around for a long time. And I don't see as many young voices in that particular space anymore. And I don't know if it's that I'm not looking or if they've moved to like itch lyric games as their space or like other areas that are just kind of adjacent to that post-Forge indie, but not really in the same grouping.
So there's probably a few things going on. One is games are expensive to make.
Sure.
So people have come to understand that more and more. And so yeah, you are seeing more games being put up on itch, being a smaller, being a okay, we're aiming for this specific experience, as opposed to we're aiming for campaign style play.
Sure.
So there is that, but I think also sometimes gamers can be a little gatekeepy.
Yes.
And so every now and again, somebody comes up with a idea, and somebody who has been around for longer will say something like, "Oh, we solved that forever ago." And so you get this, okay, so there's this kind of implied requirement that you have to know everything that happened before you can start saying anything. And that kind of drives people away. And it's really annoying. And I hate, and whenever I see people my age or even like slightly younger than me, because I'm not ancient, but I'm not exactly a spring chicken. Because I was in my 30s before I started writing for games.
Okay.
Like I'm 44 now, I'll be 45 later this year.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I'm 31 and I consider myself an old head at this point.
Yeah.
Just because it moves so fast.
Yeah, and so like every now and again I'll like hop in a game with people who are still taking the SATs, and I'm like, oh god, I feel
yeah, no thank you. I don't even like thinking about that. That feels gross. I don't.
Well, I mean, it depends on the game. Like we're playing Masks, where it's not, the themes are already there, and so as long as everybody understands, and we do like some of that is my like boundary lines. It's like, all right, if we're gonna play kids who are gonna be having sex, they have to be at least 16, and nobody can be over like 19.
Yeah,
you know, let's just keep that in that. Like, if we're otherwise, can we all be like community college age? Like Riverdale, like creeps me out. It's like, okay, nope, too far, go back.
I don't want to play like Harmony Korrine's Kids. Like that's not a session I want to play of like a bunch of skater 13-year-olds in like 1980s New York. No, thank you.
No. That was traumatizing enough the first time around. And also my kid is now 13, so it's like I really don't want to think about that. No, don't want to think about nope. No, thank you. Nope. Right there. No.
That's a very easy, line for setting up before a game.
Yeah. And so I mean, and like I said, I don't mind playing with people younger than me as long as everybody knows, okay, this is the sandbox we are playing in.
Sure.
And these are the boundaries. And so good communication there is fine. And my kids have started playing, like my elder one, before the pandemic started, there was an event here that we did once a month that was, people would come to this place down the street, and we get together and play games, and then we'd go home. And nice. She was playing Worldwide Wrestling, a small mini campaign of that, which she was having, like, it was set like backyard brawling in Baltimore or something, and she was having a blast with it. But yeah, and so having community spaces that are not necessarily, or that are kid friendly, I think is it's like yes, there were lines like, okay, we're gonna go play this game. No, you are not allowed to play this game because this is 18 or up. All right, fine, that is a boundary, no problem. But having games available that are also like, yeah, sure, you can have a teen, you can have a tween come in.
Sure.
Younger than tweens is a little tricky. I find it's easier to play board games with my younger kid than RPGs. Like they still haven't quite gotten the concept of RPG rules down.
It's since that's my main line of business, I certainly understand. Yeah, kids are. There are some kids who live in that like just all the time fertile imaginative space, and so long as you put some light rules on it, they're okay.
Yeah,
but a lot of kids do like the boundaries that are established by board games more than they are by role playing games.
Like if there are some like rules light things that are easier for the younger one to play, but for the most part, it's either 100% no rules and we're just playing pretend, or okay, we're gonna play a board game where I understand the rules.
Sure.
And part of that is like his personality. He's a rules kid. He likes to know where the rule is so that he knows where he's breaking it or walking around it. He's also occasionally a little too literal. Like I remember when he was younger once, he was trying to say something, and we were sitting at the table, and my husband said, just spit it out, and so he did. But it's like, no, oh god, okay, that's
not right.
Okay, that's not right. And I'm pretty sure he was messing with it.
Yeah.
Like as he's gotten older, I'm pretty sure he's messing with us when he does stuff like that now, as opposed to actually taking it completely literally. I'm like, there's no way you didn't know.
That sounds
Really? Yeah. And coming from me and my husband, it is entirely probable that there is a sarcasm gene, and they have it in spades. So
just
oh well.
a living, breathing shitpost out in
Yeah,
the world.
pretty exactly.
Okay, so I said early on, Orun is out. It is the thing I want to talk about. Do you want to like give the 30-second, 1 minute like pitch, or we just dive right into it?
So the 30-second pitch. You are in a world where beings of great power had come along and made everything perfect, and then left, but then something happened and screwed it up. And so now you're trying to get back to that utopia and bringing everybody else along with you. So it's not just you're trying to find divine grace or whatever, however you want to put it. You're trying to make the world better so that the worlds go back to that. And so it's kind of like a sci-fi space opera, depending on how you play it. Like I run it very differently than Jerry and Aloy run it. Okay. Like I tend to go more mystery solving, and then they tend to go more fighty. Okay. The rules are there for either way. Sure. For however, and there's a lot of room to play within the world, and within the rule set. And what happened to my camera? Hello? Oh, there it goes. That was weird.
Oh, strange. And then disappeared again. Come on. Can I hold on? Just say something and see if I can still hear you.
Yeah, can you still hear me?
Oh, I can still hear you. Okay.
Oh, that's weird. I don't know what's great.
Huh.
I don't know what's great.
All right. Well, we're back. Whatever.
Yeah, and yeah, so weird. And so it's a world with you've got automatons that embody the souls of people who died, and so they sort of can kind of continue living. You've got kind of teddy bear looking critters and mechanical biosuits that are a little cranky and like to fight. You got plant based people who just have like kind of flowers growing from places that are kind of unusual for
like Pikmin.
Sort of.
I just really want there to be Pikmin in this universe.
I think probably more like Groot than Pikmin, but okay, possibly. Yeah. You've got kind of sea jellyfish, squiddy kind of critters who prefer to live underwater and usually live underwater, but are perfectly fine walking around on land for periods of time. And our spy masters extraordinaire. And we tried to do a lot of the decoupling of race and stats and make some of the skills and stuff based on where you grew up, which makes a lot more sense than who you are. Because if you're a squid critter but you were born on a desert planet, you're gonna have a very different set of skills than a squid critter born on the squid planet. It's just that's just the way it works. And you're probably going to have different some of your background stuff is based on like what kind of jobs you did before you became a jolly, which is the person who what we're calling the player character classes. Okay. And so it's an interesting little, like I said, space opera. So and you can play all kinds of that aspects of it, whether it's more the Star Warsy, let's go pew pew lasers, or the Star Trekky, let's go explore
pew
and see what else is around. Pew pew lasers, tachyon beam. Without necessarily getting too hard sci-fi into it. I think we tried to make everything something that is a current theoretical possibility without like diving super deep into the, yes, this is how this works, because I'm trained as a scientist, but I am not a scientist.
I don't want to spend 2 years figuring out how a
Yeah.
core might work
No,
just for like a
I don't know.
paragraph.
Yeah, it's too much.
Yeah.
Faster than light exists. Go.
It's fine.
That's all you need to know.
Don't think about it too hard.
Yeah.
They don't, so it's fine. So yeah, the tagline is post-apotheosis Afrocentric space opera.
Mhm.
So what was like the generative process to arriving at making this game?
Have you ever met Jerry?
Once in passing.
Jerry is our creative puck kind of, and so Jerry will throw the wackiest things at the wall, and Aloy will also throw wacky things, but his are the wacky, and they're very, and so I had to be like the straight man in between the two. It's like, all right, yes, too far, come back a little, no, okay, can we push that one a little further? And so it was like a balancing act of trying, because we're three very strong personalities with opinions, and just, so it was a balancing act of, all right, this is what I want. Okay, this is what you want. All right, cool. How about I see how we can fit those two together. Okay, and you want this. Okay, and so it was a collaborative process, and then we brought in the writers to do. It's like, all right, this is, build me this based on this, and kind of like, it's like, all right,
here's your foundation.
Yeah, this is. I want a world that's like a desert world. Tell me what this desert world is like.
Okay.
And so kind of give them the creative freedom to come up with those ideas as well.
Was this the first project of this scale that you were a lead on?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I have learned a lot of things. Mostly have agendas for meetings, and schedule more of them probably.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's the first one I've had this much responsibility for, soup to nuts. Like I've been the editor before, where it's like, all right, I'm responsible for making sure that everything here flows properly. I've been a writer where it's like, all right, yeah, this is my chunk of it. I've been a sensitivity reader. It's like, all right, you use this word. Did you mean to use this word? Because that's what other people think of when they use this word. And it's like, yes, that is the word I meant. All right, as long as that is what you meant to do, which is a lot of what my sensitivity reading work is. Is like, all right, you use this word. Some people think it's offensive. Were you trying to be offensive? Oh, no. Okay, that's fine. Then let's use this word instead. And sometimes it's, yes, actually I was. So, all right, cool.
Perfect. Great word choice.
Yeah, perfect. Well, I mean, so an example of that one is Josh Fox and Becky Annison did a sci-fi one, but they were targeting the like caste system and like the underbelly of space, and so yeah, they were in some cases using terms that were semi-insulting, but that was intentional because that was the feel and the foundation of the game. So in that case, it works. It's whereas like if you're going for a lighter, fluffier tone, yeah, I probably would have said, yeah, maybe you don't want to use that one instead. Yeah. So sometimes sometimes sensitivity is making sure that people understand what they're doing. So not as much as trying not to offend everyone, because sometimes you are trying to offend people, and that's fine. As long as that's intentional, and as long as what you were doing is being done with intent. But yeah, so balancing act with trying to get everybody on the same page. And then we also decided early on that we were gonna like, all right, we're kind of gonna domain it. And it's like, all right, you were gonna be responsible for this chunk, and you were gonna be responsible for this chunk, and then we'll merge them back together later, because trying to put three strong people. Me and my husband are not allowed to work on the same project at the same time, like in the house at all, just because. Yeah, we figured this out early in our marriage. We built a headboard once, and we were so like from scratch. We were like gonna build it, and my dad like sat up. We went to my dad's house because he's got tools, and he sat there with a beer and laughed at us the whole time while we're trying to do this, because I had ideas and he had ideas, and it's like, all right, this isn't gonna work if we're trying to do this at the same time. How about you could do that thing and I could do this thing, and we'll put them. It's like, all right, this works.
Okay.
It's fine. We understand this. It's fine. It's not a bad thing. It's just knowing your limitations.
It's just what you need to do.
Yeah. It's like, I can handle this If I need your help, I will ask you for it. But otherwise, you can handle that. If you need my help, I will come and help you. But for the most part, yeah, don't ask for things that both of us need to do input on at the same time. It doesn't always turn out well.
So reflecting that, but across, a creative
Yeah.
project with other people
Yeah.
you're not married to.
Exactly. It's like, okay, I can go home at the end of the day and not have to worry, like, okay, am I gonna have to sleep next to this person now? So it's a little less tension. But also it's like you want to respect each other's ideas and input. Because we are equal partners in this venture. So
Had you worked with them previously?
I had worked with Aloy on Third Eye Games' Part-Time Gods too.
Yeah.
I had written some stuff with him for that. I had not worked with Jerry at that point. It kind of grew out of we realized that there was not a space where Black gamers Black designers got together and talked really.
Yeah.
And so New Agenda kind of grew out of us. So we created that space, and the New Agenda kind of grew out of it. It's like, hey, you guys want to work on something together? I was like, yeah, sure. And that's
the story of every Discord community.
Yeah, pretty much. This was back when G Plus was still around, so it's been a little while coming. So I think
Is that also how you sourced the additional people you worked with, other than the three of you?
We did it through website, G Plus some, Facebook some, Twitter some.
Did you get productive responses from Facebook?
So we had it was more of a advertising on Facebook than it was posting the same thing across multiple.
Sure.
And it's like, here's a form, go fill it out, and then we'll get back to you, and we'll we asked for some writing samples for the writers, and where's your portfolio for the artists. And then we kind of looked at them without, divorced everything from the names and biographies and stuff, looked through it, picked our top 20 or so, and then just based on the writing samples. And then from there we narrowed it down, looking at other, who of the people that were left did we like we ranked them, and then we went and looked at the bios and said, oh, hey, turned out that the people whose writing we liked most actually had the bios we also liked most, and we're kind of looking to highlight. It's like, gee, but I think that probably had something to do with the way we originally wrote the call for writers. So
okay,
it might have pissed a few people off. I'm not saying it did. I'm not saying it didn't, but I'm not saying it did. It was worded in such a way that some people took umbrage to it, and
they always will.
Yeah, pretty much. If you want to, whatever.
So, how has the reception been so far?
So when we're, for the most part, it's been positive. We've had far more positive responses than we had negative. We had a little bit of hate at the beginning, just because there's, like I said, there's always going to be that subset. I think there's a Reddit post somewhere, or maybe it's Board Game Geek or one of the RPG Geeks somewhere like there, that it was like, oh, I'm not going to buy. I never look at who writes my games, and I'm like, okay, that's great. You have the privilege to not care.
Yeah.
Nobody's requiring you to care. But also it's like, yeah, there's gonna, do I need to know if this Black trans blah blah? I'm like, all right, you block. Let's just keep going. But for the most part, it has been positive. People have been a lot more supportive. People have been very patient, because it was originally supposed to come out early last year, and then just and yeah. It got complicated real fast, and so finally getting it out, it's I'm so glad it's finally, everything's in one place, everything's out, it's written, it looks pretty, we got all the art back.
Are there more deliverables?
There will be. Well, we still have to do the physical copies.
Yeah.
So that we have, and there will be a chunk that has the stretch goal stuff in it.
Okay.
Other than some of the core species stuff is already there. Some of the stretch goal stuff is going to be in a separate deliverable.
Gotcha.
That we're working on now. So not quite done, but close.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I'm excited to see how it lands when it is fully kind of out in the world. Because I think since when the Kickstarter ran and today, there has been like a pretty appreciable shift in the hunger is the right word, I think. For hunger is not the right word because that implies it wasn't there. That the hunger for it has become a very surface level element for the broader community versus like the people who are hungry for it, right?
Yeah.
I just think even like Twitter discourse 2 years ago or like back in G+ days, you knew it was something people wanted, but it wasn't so openly discussed everywhere.
Well, I think part of it was there's been a shift culturally in accepting the concept of like, you know, colorblindness. You saw it with Hamilton. You saw it with some of the responses to some of the movies that have come out, like the response to casting Scarlett Johansson in
Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I could not remember the name of those stupid movie to save my life. But so like people are pushing back. It's like, okay, why are you taking the little bit of representation that we have away from us? And wanting people being vocal about wanting to see more of that representation from not only see the representation, but see the representation from people with those perspectives, as opposed to random white dude trying to write about being
the green book.
Oh god. Like The Help. I love Viola Davis and she is amazing. I hate The Help with a burning passion, and but yeah, so less white savior tropes and more, no, this is what it's like. So I think we've seen more of that. And also, as things have become more democratized, stuff that used to be a niche has found a wider audience. So like Black Lightning could succeed, where before it would have been, all right, we're going to have the Black Block on Tuesdays, and it's going to be all the Black shows are going to be on Tuesdays, and that's all the representation you're going to get. And if it's not on Tuesday, you're not going to see it anywhere else. But now you're seeing more, okay, no, this is going to fit into the larger universe, or we're seeing more characters that are authentic and an integral part of the cast. A really good example. And I would have been really surprised if you had told me like 5 years ago that I would like a show about Texas firefighters, but 911 Lone Star is amazing at it. I mean, you've got a hijabi Muslim woman, you've got a trans Black man played by a trans Black actor, you've got a gay paramedic now, you've got his cop boyfriend, you've got who's Hispanic, and it's this kind of like motley crew of people, but the story isn't necessarily about them being trans or gay or hijabi. There's like, there might be like a throwaway scene or two that like gets you into that larger thing, but for the most part it's about them being firefighters and them being that siblinghood of and the things that they're doing. So it's this exciting show about, we're gonna go have lava. There's lava in Texas this week. Okay, sure, we'll go with it, no problem. But also sensitively addressing like some of those core identity issues. And so like there's like a scene where the Muslim woman goes to rescue somebody, and when she comes back, her hijab falls off, and the guys don't even think about it. They just form a shield around her, backs out so that nobody else can see her until she gets herself fixed. And they don't discuss it. It's just a thing they do. And it's just like such an amazing way of portraying it properly. And it's been something that's been clamored for, but in quiet. And so things like Twitter have made it so that, those voices that have been calling for it oh wait, somebody else wants this too, and so now it's like you can see it coming together, and people supporting things that, whereas before it's like you would have thought it, and like I've been thinking I wanted this thing since like 2096 or whenever I started gaming back when Mortal Kombat came out the first time. And now we're getting a new Mortal Kombat that actually has Asian people playing the roles as opposed to Christopher Lambert, who, great actor. I don't know if he should have been Raiden the first time.
No, he really should not have been.
Yeah, but and so it just kind of shows how far we've come, because people not only can say, yes, this is a thing I want, but other people can hear that and say, yes, that is a thing I want too. And so there's a power in that democratizing factor, as much of a cesspool as Twitter is. It has been useful for that, if nothing else.
I mean, I certainly enjoy it, but I enjoy the misery of it. It's like an airport. Most
Yeah.
people hate them, and I love them. It'll be interesting to me in particular to see how the response to Orun is between what we might consider like the wider trad community and that like small scale Twitter discourse community. Because I think Orun will probably, if people in that like itch world, in that small scale Twitter world, know about it, will be very positively received. I would put money on it. But I wonder,
it's
like,
kind of crunchy. Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of crunchy. It's not like super crunchy. It's 2d10 plus a stat plus a skill plus any bonuses. So it's a little crunchy. It's not like super crunchy, and you can like, but it's not. The skill list is pretty small, so it's not like, okay, we didn't get super granular with it, like, oh god, Roll Master, which I loved and played for years. I could never play again because I don't think I get past, like, I literally made a character sheet for Roll Master for 2 of my graduate level classes capstone projects. So it was like it had drop downs, because Rollmaster, like the sheet, when you would print it, it was like 12 pages, and it like in tiny font, and you could find a skill for everything. That's just too much, too granular. Where we kept it to, I think we decided on 20 skills, which pretty decent range.
Yeah.
We have 5 stats called auras. You get Grace, Light, War. I have to look at a sheet.
2 more.
2 more. Because it's one of those. I'm trying to not like live there, but it's hard. Grace, Light, War. Spirit? I can find it. Really, I can. This is me searching frantically through media.
I'd say I'd cut out the dead air, but I'm absolutely not going to.
Yeah,
it's going to be great.
Spirit and Harmony. That's
okay.
I always forget Harmony. And so
it's like how nobody likes heart in Captain
Planet. It's actually only 12 skills. Yeah, so 12 skills, 5 auras, and those combine to make up you do what you do. And so we try to keep things like weapons as a skill, as opposed to, okay, we're not going to break it down into like guns versus knives versus no, it's weapons. Period. Entertain kind of covers a variety. So a lot of times it's, okay, make me a case for which 2 things you want to use. Like, do you want to use war plus entertain to do some kind of like really? Yeah, sure. That's a perfectly. I will accept that.
War dance.
Yeah, you're trying to do you're trying to do a haka, for example, and you're trying to be fierce and show that you're fierce, but you're not necessarily trying to actually fight somebody. Sure, no problem. We'll do you want to use learning plus grace to show off, how well you've done this thing? Sure, no problem. So we try to keep it crunchy enough for people who need that kind of crunch, like, because I've been playing a play by post for pushing. Oh wow, since before 2016.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been going a while. Where we don't actually have rules. Like, it's just me and my buddy, and it's like, hey, I think it'd be cool if this thing happened. Yeah. This is my kid. I think this would be cool if this happened. Do you think it'd be cool if this thing happened? Yes, it'd be cool if that thing happened. Let's go. The thing happens. And so we tried to walk that line of, yes, let's keep the rules loose, but yeah, let's also make them a little. Let's have them a little bit of gusto into
Sure.
behind them. And it worked out well. I think it's a good balance between the two kind of extremes. Because you could just play in the world and not necessarily, use the mechanics if you're really not into it. I don't know if anybody wants to try to port it somewhere else. Not my. It is in the world. What people do with it now is beyond. I have accepted that is beyond authorial control. I can only write it. How it is received is beyond me.
You're a partner in running this thing. You got to market that. You're not out of the woods yet.
No, it's not. It's not so much that I'm out of the woods, so much as I cannot control how people respond to it.
Sure.
So people are going to respond to it the way they're going to do it, and there's nothing I can do to change how they respond to it, other than be open to criticism and to answer questions. Mm-hmm. But if somebody wants to say, "Hey, I don't like this, and I'm going to house rule it," sure, go for it.
Still using the word.
Yeah, I don't care. That is not my problem. If somebody, and there are some things that we even wrote in. It's like, hey, yeah, somebody could have a negative this according to the rules as written. If you don't like that, change it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hack away.
So, yeah, it's like we have provided you a framework. What you do with the framework now is up to you. You go tell the stories you want to tell.
So having now been a lead on this thing and jumping ahead, because there's still that stretch goal, there's the physical printing, there's all that stuff. But do you want to keep it this level of ownership of a project, or do you think do you going back to like the freelance world?
So I mean, I'm still freelancing.
Sure.
This is gonna make a little bit of money, but not like retiring money or anything.
Yeah.
I do like the creative control level of it. Some of the I could care less about we were trying to figure out what we wanted the book to feel like. Okay, we decided we want it to be square. And I said, I wanted, how some of them are fuzzy? I want it to be fuzzy. I don't know what that means. Make it fuzzy. And I didn't need to know. It's like, because Aloy knew what the hell I was talking about. It's like, okay, you mean this. Like, okay, if that's what I mean, sure. This is what I want. So I like having partners who know what that is, so that I don't have, that is not a brain space thing I need to devote to that. I can use that brain space for something else, and it'll be fine. So I kind of like working with partners for that reason, because we all have different skill sets, and like I'm better at marketing and talking to people and pushing things out there. And Aloy is better at the like nuts and bolts and the detailed nitty gritty stuff, and Jerry's better at like coming up with like some of the really broad concepts, and then sometimes diving like super deep and like, okay, this is the lore, this is how, like, all right, Jerry, that is lore.
Good job.
That is, yeah. Oh wow. Okay. Yes, that is very creative. And some of it is like, oh, that is really great. I like that. Let's get, so I liked that level of I don't know. I probably could and probably will. Like I have a couple of projects that are on the back burner where we are doing everything else soup to nuts. Like we've been working on Nightingales, which is a LARP.
Yeah.
It's a LARP based on nurses in times of war.
Yeah.
And so we still have to. It's like 90% finished, but it's that last 10%, which is, all right, we've got to like do layout, we've got to do printing, we've got to come up with rights for pictures, we've got to come up with, and that is the like where we're bogged down now, because the three of us working on that project are all like the super high creative and not the
let's drill it down and make it happen.
Yeah. And so there will always be projects like that though, where it's like, okay, this is what I'm good at, and this is not what I'm good at, and I'm not quite ready to figure out what I'm good at. Like I've been trying to learn Affinity Publisher recently, and that's just.
I finally understand designer, and I have no idea how publisher works yet.
Well, I was just trying to make a T-shirt.
Oof.
And so, like, I had bought Affinity Publisher and Photo and Designer.
Yeah.
Because it was like a bundle and it was on sale. I was like, okay, yeah, sure. This will probably come in handy at some point. I should get this. And then so like I'm trying to do this T-shirt design. And it's like, I just want a transparent back. How do I get a transparent back? Oh, maybe there's just a button there.
There's just a checkbox. Yeah. It took me a long time to figure that one out.
Yeah. Fortunately, there's Google. It's like, how do you get a... Oh, okay. But yeah, so some of it is like, what am I willing to devote the brain space to, and what do I have time to devote the brain space to? Because that's always an issue too. Because I've got kids and other projects that are.
You could just stop at kids, because but how does anyone get anything done in advance? Like in addition to that, I have no idea.
Yeah, mine are 10 and 13 now, so they're mostly self-sufficient.
Sure.
Especially since they aren't going anywhere at the moment. So I don't have to do like school drop off and pick up anymore, which was like a chunk of my day before. But I really miss them being out of the house for periods of time. Just little things. Little things. Like, I really miss cafes. I used to get the best writing done at Panera. Because Panera it was like, they had plugs, they had tables, they had decent food, they had music. The Wi-Fi was good enough to write, but not good enough to get like sidetracked.
The most important thing.
Yeah, it's like it's a delicate bet. Like at home, like I can scream anything. I've got TVs and I have laundry that I should be doing, and I get sidetracked too much with that. Whereas I miss being able to, okay, I'm going to leave here and go somewhere else where some of those distractions aren't there. And that's also a big chunk of why some stuff hasn't gotten done. It's like, all right, I cannot not distract myself enough to actually concentrate on this long enough. Which I think we're all discovering as this goes on and on.
Every day.
Yeah.
So speaking of things that I think we normally associate as like going out and doing, but playing at home, going back to having played now multiple years games through a digital medium, what are your feelings on like VTTs, just in general?
They're cool. They're useful. I like some of them are, especially for games that I'm not familiar with, I find very helpful. Like we've been playing Aegon with a group, and so even though I wrote for it, it's like, okay, I'm still not super familiar with the system because I've only played a few games.
Sure.
So having, okay, this is a thing, and I just click this and this and this, and it poof, hey, look, it rolled for me. Whereas like Mass doesn't have a virtual tabletop, but there's a lot of character keepers out there for a lot of the PBTA games, especially Mass. And again, somebody went through and took the time to like do those drop downs and like, okay, here's the things. And so I like the condensing, so I don't have to go and read an entire book to figure out what I need to do to play. So from that aspect, I really like it. I find the people who actually design them amazingly creative, and I love it when I love people who are passionate enough about it to actually do it. Because a lot of people, and I am including myself, is like, I wish this thing existed, and that's as far as it gets. And not everybody has to do the thing, but I appreciate that people are passionate enough that
they do. And then I get to reap the benefits.
And then I get the benefit. Exactly. So like if somebody wants to do it on a Orun virtual tabletop, talk to me. We will talk, and I will probably even get payment for you and stuff, because
putting it out into the universe.
Like, exactly. Hello, if you're listening. But yeah, so I think they're really cool, and I wish they had existed when I started playing back online, back in when my kids were like really little.
So between 10 and 13 years ago.
Yeah, because like I had taken a break from gaming for a while because I lived in Georgia. That's where I got started gaming.
Okay.
We moved to Maryland, and I didn't want to be the creepy old guy who hung around the college to like find games.
Yeah.
So I didn't play games till my kid was like 2.5, 3.
Okay.
When I ran across another parent who was reading a book, and turns out they lived down the street from me, and so I started playing games again. And that the rest they say is history. So that would have been, I guess, 11 years ago.
Okay. 2010.
Yeah, 2010-ish. Yeah, 2010, 2011-ish. Then I started going to conventions again and stuff. And meeting people. What a concept. I was also like one of those like leading edge working from home people because the company I worked for in Georgia wanted me to keep working, even though I was in Maryland now, because it's like, okay, all I do is computer and talk to people from a phone anyway. So yeah, sure I'll work from home. Which was really useful when you have small children in the house and it's prohibitively expensive to put them in daycare. It is. How do people do that? It was like most of my take-home pay would have gone to daycare, and I'm like, and I was not making like a small amount of money. I was making a decent amount of money, but like, how do people do this with multiple kids? I don't understand. Okay,
no idea.
Kids, because they're expensive, very expensive. Diapers. Whew.
Just keeping them alive on a daily basis.
That's not so much the expensive part. I mean, like, one kid is starting to get into the, like, she's a teenager now, so she's getting to the, okay, we're gonna like eat everything in the house like stage. It's like, okay, let's not eat. Okay, I just bought that yesterday. How are they all gone? And now I feel, Mom, sorry.
Teenagers are bottomless pits.
Yeah, sorry. I now know what you feel. Sorry, I was a brat. My bad. Yeah, that's the other thing. It's like all those things that you know your mom yelled at you about. It's like, oh, that's why.
I get it now.
I get it. I totally get it now. Yeah. Oops. So yeah, virtual tabletops are great, and I'm glad that more games are coming out with them. I mean, even from the accessibility point of view of it's easier, like you don't have to try to find dice that other people can see, and you don't have to be able to physically roll. You can push a button and they can do it, or voice command it or whatever. So yeah, they're super cool. I like them a lot.
Okay, so 2 questions. One, which VTT do you most often use if you have like a consistent preference?
So the thing I use most often is not necessarily an actual VTT, but it's probably like Google Sheets that have character keepers built into them. Second would be I use a lot of stuff on Roll20 for games, just because the interface with like streaming is really easy from Roll20. So that makes it a little easier to do a lot of things. But also like I'm playing a Pathfinder game and they've got one implemented, and I'm actually playing in a Dungeons and Dragons game for the first time in 20 odd years. Yeah, it's been a while since I played an actual Dungeons and Dragons game. So we've got one going there. It's like, okay, no, I am not reading all 30 books that they have implemented into this neat little system that I can just click a drop down. It's like, oh yes, I will take that one, please. That's just much easier. I did try to sit down and make a World of Darkness character recently. And I remember, like, in college, making them, like, I can make, like...
No problem.
Crank one out. Now, I sat down and I tried, and I got to the, like, bubbling in the dots, and it's like, all right, now pick these things. And I'm like, nope.
I'm out.
I'm out. I'm not going to play this game. It's fine. It's fine. Somebody else makes me a character. I will play this game, but I am not going through that again.
That's what pre-gens are for.
Exactly. It's fine. And so having like the tabletops that can just do a generation thing is also pretty cool.
So yeah, I mean, that was kind of part of the question. The second is, what would you add? As somebody who has worked in kind of the sensitivity space as well as the design space, are there any core functions that you think are just missing across the board, or that maybe aren't missing, but could really use some additional love and attention?
I'd like to see like more safety tools kind of implemented somehow.
Okay.
Like whether that is the like having a button on your screen like that'll like if you type the X button or like Shift
Sure.
X or Control X or something, it'll throw an X card for you, or like some kind of function that'll like do a script change functionality,
Sure.
just or even something that just even if it doesn't actually implement a safety feature, at least makes people think about safety a little. So uh, a lot of times, like most of the safety features that I would recommend are mostly just talking to your players and with your players, and discussing things beforehand. So like that thing I was saying where like I've been playing a play post for forever, and mostly we just go, hey, I think it would be cool if, are you cool? That's I would like to see implemented more. It's like, hey, I would like to do this thing. Are you cool with that? Before you actually do it. Like not everything has to surprise every player.
Sure.
It's not necessarily even knowing something's gonna happen doesn't necessarily ruin it. Because knowing something's going to happen, like I watch horror movies. I watch a lot of horror movies. I kind of miss going to movie theaters and watching horror movies in the middle of the day because at night it's too scary. Like I actually sat down.
Need to come out of the theater and see daylight, and then I'm okay.
Yes. Yeah, like I do have like a couple hours to like decompress in the daylight before I go to bed. I was gonna watch a horror movie last night because my husband wasn't home, and then I was like, yeah, no, it's too dark already. Yeah, no, can't do this. We'll watch that later. But not even with horror movies that I've seen before, watching them again, you still jump, you still get scared, you still like,
Totally.
even though you know this person's gonna live and this person's gonna die, you're still invested in that story. So there's no, while I am not necessarily saying, hey, post all the spoilers all the time, because I'm not, and I'm really annoyed with people who like post spoilers as stuff is being streamed like immediately. It's like, but at the same time, there is room for, hey, this is the content that you might want to look out for in this story. And so talking to your players and talking about what you're thinking of doing is something that I think should be considered more in a game.
Yeah.
Just like I said, it can just be like, hey, this is a general theme I'm thinking of going. Are you cool with it? Is often enough. You know, it's like, hey, we're gonna meet some beholders. I'm like, okay, yeah, no beholders. You gotta stab them in the eyes, and I can't deal with this. Yeah. I can't even watch people putting contacts. No. Yeah, I know I'm a weirdo. It's fine.
I mean, hey, everybody's got something.
Yeah, everybody's got a quick point. So yeah, it's little things like that. It's not even so much it's more of a, hey, let's slow down and think about this before we just spring something on our players.
Sure.
Kind of thing.
Again, back to your comment about sensitivity reading is often about intentionality.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, okay, you're using this word. Do you know what this word means? Are you sure this is the word you want to mean? Okay, then we're cool. And that's basically what I think we would benefit from more as a general community, society.
Yeah. I don't. Yes. I don't, other than yes, I don't really have a response. I agree. Yeah. Okay, so we're at an hour and 3. We're probably on the wrap up side of things. I wanted to ask, other than kind of the rest of the deliverables for Orun and then Nightingales at some point, what else is kind of on the horizon for you?
So I have I can say this Mwangi Expanse book for Pathfinder. It's coming out in June.
Okay.
I did some writing for that. I'm really happy with the art that they've put along with it. Like the writers got to see a preview of the PDF, and it's like, oh, it's so pretty. I can't. And then I've got part of Starfinder Adventure coming out later this year. I don't know exactly when. I was joking with my husband that I now have more Amazon titles than he does. Because he's got like some like niche thing in his field that he wrote for, and it's on Amazon. It's like, I got more to do. It's little things. So what else were you working on? Doing some stuff with Evil Hat on Umdar and Thirsty Sword Lesbians, and 5 more minutes, buddy. I'm doing an interview. I love him. So yeah, Umdar and Thirsty Sword Lesbians, and I've been doing some editing stuff for them. I think that's all I'm currently working on that has not come out yet. I think.
All right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a decent amount.
Yeah. And I'm sure there will be other things that crop up as they come.
Yeah. All right.
But that mostly just trying to get Orun out the door.
Yeah. I am personally excited to receive a physical copy. So
yeah, it'll be really cool to like actually finally have it.
Yeah, and see.
I guess I should like actually put it on a shelf somewhere.
Also interested to see if it is sufficiently fuzzy for your needs.
It should be. Like I said, Aloy knew exactly what I was talking about. I was like, you know how this book is like, you know, it's got that like kind of like peach fuzz kind of feel, as opposed to like slick.
It's just going to be covered in troll doll hair.
Exactly. It's going to be cotton candy. Don't get it wet. It'll be bad.
Well, this is too much fuzz.
Dial it back a little. Special teddy bear edition.
Oh, God. I would buy it. I would. Sounds awesome. I get to sleep with a book, and it doesn't hurt my face to lie down on it.
Exactly. Great. All you need.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is good. I'm glad we finally did this.
Yeah. We'll actually have to actually get together at some point later.
At some point. I figure everyone who I'm interviewing online, I'm just gonna have to buy them a drink anyway at whenever cons start again.
I'm figuring 2022 we might be out of this and be able to congregate and stuff.
I have a feeling PAX Unplugged might still happen because it happened so late in the year. But other than that, I'm really not sure. Yeah. I mean, Gen Con's happening.
Theoretically.
Yeah.
And so my biggest worry with conventions this year is they still don't have anything for kids, vaccine-wise. Sure. So even if I'm vaccinated, my kids aren't.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see when it's finally not fully bad news bears.
Yeah, right. Like I said, I'm hoping next year. I'm hoping by next year's Dreamation-ish, we should be good.
Okay.
I'm hoping.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
That's an achievable target, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I they're predicting approval for kids vaccines later this year. So
okay, cool.
At least for older, I think it's 9 and up, or over 9 or something. I don't know.
And then TBD on the youngers.
Yeah.
Hopefully soon. All right. Well.
Yeah.
It was good seeing you.
Yeah, it was good seeing you.
All right.
We'll talk later.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.